What if the greatest general in history faced something he could not outthink? Not another army, not another empire, but something that already knows every move. Artificial intelligence. Alexander the Great never lost a battle. Not once. At Gaugamela, he defeated an army many times his size. At Issus, he broke through a force that should have stopped him. And each time, it looked impossible. Not because he had the largest army, not because he had better weapons, but because he saw the battlefield differently. Faster, clearer, deeper. He didn't just react. He predicted. He moved before others understood what was happening. And by the time the battle began, it was already decided. That's what made him unstoppable. But there is one thing Alexander never faced. Something no general in history ever faced. A system that doesn't think like a human. Because war has always been human. Confusion, fear, uncertainty. Decisions made in seconds, with incomplete information. That's where great generals win. In the chaos, in the unknown. But what happens when the chaos disappears? Now imagine this moment on a battlefield. Dust in the air. Heat rising from the ground. The distant sound of marching soldiers. Alexander stands at the front of his army, thousands behind him, waiting, watching. Across the field, an enemy force prepares for battle. But this time, something is different. His opponent is not another king, not another general. It is a system that has already simulated this battle thousands of times. No hesitation, no confusion, no fear. Because AI doesn't see a battlefield. It sees patterns, positions, movement, probability. It doesn't react. It predicts. It doesn't guess. It calculates. And it does it faster than any human ever could. Which means something changes. The battle is no longer decided in the moment. It's decided before it begins. Because every possible move has already been tested. Every strategy analyzed. Every weakness exposed. And if that's true, then Alexander's greatest strength begins to disappear. Because his advantage was never power. It was perception. Seeing what others couldn't. Understanding the battlefield better than anyone else. But what happens when the opponent sees more? When nothing is hidden? When every decision is predictable? Because if every move can be calculated, then every advantage can be removed. And if every advantage is removed, what happens to greatness? Because greatness has always lived inside limitation. It exists because others make mistakes, because others don't see clearly, because others react too late. But AI doesn't have those limits. It doesn't get tired, doesn't hesitate, doesn't doubt. It executes again and again and again until nothing is left to chance. And that creates something new. A battlefield without uncertainty. A system where outcomes become predictable. Where decisions are no longer instinct, but calculation. And in that kind of world, Alexander is no longer fighting an enemy. He's fighting the system itself. A system that adapts, learns, improves in real time. Which raises a deeper question. Can human instinct survive in a system like this? Because Alexander didn't win by being perfect. He won by being unpredictable, by taking risks, by doing what others wouldn't, charging when retreat made sense, attacking when logic said, wait, making decisions that couldn't be calculated. And those moments changed everything. Because sometimes the winning move is the one that makes no sense. And this is where things become interesting. Because AI doesn't take risks, it avoids them. It finds the safest path, the most efficient outcome, the highest probability of success. But what if the safest path is not the winning one? What if victory comes from chaos, from unpredictability, from doing something that no system would ever choose? Because history is full of those moments. Battles that should have been lost, but weren't. Decisions that made no sense, but worked. Outcomes that no one could predict. And those moments define human strategy. But AI changes the environment. Because as intelligence increases, uncertainty decreases. Not completely, but enough to shift the balance. And when the balance shifts, so does the game. Because now, every decision is measured, every move evaluated, every outcome calculated. Not by instinct, but by probability. And in that kind of system, even the greatest general in history faces something new, a limit. Because for the first time, the opponent is not human. It doesn't feel pressure, doesn't fear failure, doesn't hesitate. It simply calculates, faster, better, relentlessly. And that changes everything. Because war is no longer about who makes fewer mistakes. It's about who operates in the better system. And this is where the real shift happens. Because maybe the question isn't, can AI defeat Alexander? Maybe the real question is, what happens when the system itself becomes the opponent? Because once that happens, the battlefield changes, strategy changes, and the idea of winning changes. Because winning is no longer about defeating an enemy. It's about understanding the system. And in a system controlled by intelligence, the rules are different. So what do you think? Could artificial intelligence defeat Alexander the Great? Or would human unpredictability still find a way to break the system? Because this question is not just about history. It's about the future, about how intelligence is changing everything, from war to decisions, to the systems we live in, and whether we are still in control. Welcome to History AI, where we explore the moments that shaped the world and the systems that could reshape it. Because sometimes the most important question is not what happened, but what happens next. And in the next video, we go even further. Because defeating a general is one thing, but what about an entire empire? Could artificial intelligence have saved the Roman Empire? Or would it have failed anyway?